Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Unleashed and Uncensored, the Inline Canine podcast. Today's guest is someone with a lot of experience and a lot of background. Looking forward to picking his brain on a lot of things. So I want to introduce you to James Sabol, a current member of the Department of Homeland Security, works as a canine trainer, former MARSOC Special Forces with the U.S. military, and I'm happy to have you, man. Thanks for coming.
No, thanks for having me, bud. It was a real pleasure to meet you, and then I'm glad we were able to set this up and, talk dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, right away we could do that all day. I think that was one of the instances. It's nice to find people to do that with, and yourself and Chris right away.
Yeah.
So just jumping in, I'll touch on how we met after, but if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself and kind of where you're at now.
Yeah. So, I've been with Department of Homeland Security for about 5 years now. And obviously there's a bunch of different entities within Department of Homeland Security without going into too much detail. I work as a canine training specialist for a SWAT team, which is single apprehension dogs, just protecting, high value personnel, and then just making sure that certain areas of the government are protected at the highest caliber. And it's a very interesting position because you are within the federal system. You are not necessarily a military unit, but you're not your traditional police unit. The tactics and procedures are specific to just our entity alone, which has made training fantastic because the funding is through the roof, but it's also made it extremely difficult because the mission is so specific. But I absolutely love it because it keeps me on my toes as a trainer.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. No, getting to pick your brain a bit on that, that's a very unique career kind of dynamic. So good on you. And if you don't mind diving me into how you got into dogs, your background in the military side of things as well.
Ooh, wow. Yeah. So it's a interesting story because I was terrified of dogs. Growing up, when I was a kid, I was like 12. My best friend got mauled by a husky, and I was like, nah, super traumatic. And I grew up a little troubled in the youth perspective. I was always just causing mayhem where I could, and I wanted to get out of the town I grew up in. And I remember that my stepdad was a Marine, and I absolutely despised him. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to take that thing that you love and I'm going to make it my own. And so I joined the Marine Corps. I kind of went in as an open contract, no idea what I was going to do. I needed to get out quick, and the only thing that was available was military police at the time. And then, my real father was a cop for 23 years. And so I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And I was going through it, and I remember seeing a photo of a canine handler, like one of those, propaganda motivational things. And I was like, oh, they have dogs? And I had no idea. And I was like, well, I'm already doing something so outside my comfort realm. Let me see if I can conquer this fear also. So I joined the Marine Corps in 2004. Went through the basic boot camp stuff, went through, our combat training, went to military police school. And then they were like, who wants to go canine? You could try out at that period. And so I tried out and got selected. And
that was right away. Sorry, you could do that literally right away. Oh, wow.
It was a pipeline.
Yeah,
so
wow.
back then, when you were in military police school, you had the option. And so you went up in front of a board. We call them pipeliners. And I was like, yeah, let's give it a shot and let's see if I could do this. And, like any young kid coming from trouble, like structure does really well for them. And structure did really well for me. Kind of gave me a sense of purpose. And then so I went to canine school, and, I was obviously nervous. It was something I wasn't expecting to really take to, and instantly fell in love with it. It's just so much simpler than dealing with people. What you see is what you get with a dog. And I thought I was going to be a military policeman. I thought that was going to kind of be it for me. And, just ride around in a patrol cruiser with a dog.
Yep.
And then I got to the fleet, and I think I was there for about 2 months, got assigned a dog, and they were like, hey, you're going to Iraq, and this is 2005.
I was going to say, can you provide the time context? Because that's important. Like Iraq in 2005 was literally a year after the invasion, right? 2004, March 04.
Yeah.
So like, if anyone is following that, like it was fucking war at that point.
Yeah. It going to Iraq, like, we knew a war was going on, but you're such a young kid, you don't grasp the vastness of it.
Yeah.
There were a couple senior guys that had just gotten back, and like we still had stations in Afghanistan, but Afghanistan wasn't really a whole lot during that period. But Iraq really started popping off and getting really chaotic as the insurgency started building up once we had taken care of the majority of the Iraqi forces. And the insurgency really kicked off. And in 2005, I remember I got a dog and I got sent overseas, and we ended up in El Asad. And they were like, hey, you're going here, you're going here, you're going here. They used to pull from all the different bases. So you didn't have dedicated canine units that were doing war prep, that were doing everything that they needed. It was just pulling random guys from all over the place, throw them together.
That's a major lesson learned now, eh? Like that's a big one. Yeah, no, I'm glad. And the last thing I wanted to ask, just on something you said, was the insurgency. So when the insurgency kicked off, was that the Iraqi security forces remainder at the time, or are we starting to talk into the next wave of insurgency?
It's a little bit of both. There were still a couple of high value targets that we were looking for that was left over from the old regime. But now you were starting to get more of a counteroffensive of individuals that just, whether it was religious beliefs or just, we don't want you in our country. That part started popping up pretty heavy. And I remember we all got to El Asad, and I think there was probably like 30 of us, somewhere around there. And they started saying, you're going to this unit, you're going to this unit, you're going to this unit. And this is in the middle of Operation Phantom Fury through Fallujah, and that we get sent out to that base there. And I have no idea what Phantom Fury is. I have no idea. Like, there was no, hey, this is what you're doing, this is where you're going to go. It was interesting. And so I got to the main base, and I remember First Reconnaissance Battalion came over, and they're like, hey, whose dog will bite? And I was like, mine. I had an asshole, man. He was a great dog, but man, was he a mean son of a bitch. And I was like, mine will. And they're like, you're with us. And I was like, cool. No idea what I'm doing.
Good resume right there. Yeah.
yeah. That's all you needed.
Yeah.
Didn't know CQB, didn't know, like, during this period, we weren't even doing like buried odor. I came from a base that was still doing vehicles, warehouses. I had no idea how to teach. The IED threat was really just starting to kick off.
Okay.
And they were using munitions during that period, they were using munitions from the old regime.
Okay.
So a lot of the missions that we were going on were either high value targets, looking for caches, or chasing the money. Who was funding everybody. And that period was nuts, because once we pushed everybody out of the city, then it was immediately just doing the surrounding farmlands, and it just got so spread out. I remember that even though First Reconnaissance was big, we were spread so thin, we had to call in a second fast team to come support. And as a dog guy, you start learning the ins and outs of how dogs do stuff. And like I said, nothing to my credit. I just had a very, very good dog. He just naturally was good at the job and took to anything we were trying to teach. And a lot of the stuff we were learning on the fly, like, how do I teach a dog to search the ground for odor? How do I get rid of human disturbances? weights. You train on a pound and now you're finding 350 pounds. It's a completely different ballgame.
And how to, and your dog isn't always going to just give you that nice, pretty trained final response, right? So how to understand and read that dog in that environment, brand new, on the fly, Phantom Fury in Fallujah. It's that's a big thing, right? And you talked about your dog being, you said he was really strong. Like it changes everything, right? Like a lot of people, some you get assigned a new dog, a really weak one, a really strong one, whatever. I was very fortunate, like yourself, to have a very strong dog, and it helped me learn. It helped me. He showed me, like I imagine this guy showed you, just what I was doing wrong. You know what I mean? How I was communicating wrong, and it's. I don't think that people understand in the working world how big genetics are, and just the role they play in our dog's strengths and weaknesses.
100%. And I think also having a dog that if you could be firm with him, but you had to be fair, because he was, he's a little sharp. And so anytime I was not fair, he was quick to let me know. And I hate to say it, but that's the best trial by fire. You do an over the top correction for something that the dog is confused about or doesn't clearly understand, and you're wearing him like a fur coat.
He's coming up.
Yeah, 100%. And so that was also learning lightning fast. But that whole time, I cannot give enough credit to the guys that were around me, to the element leaders, to the team chiefs, like anyone who's running those guys. They really took me under their wing and was like, hey, this is how you make entry into a building. This is the commands that we're doing. This is how you run a comm system. This is the things that we're looking for. These are precursors. Like, they really took the time, and I don't think I'd be here today if it wasn't for them. Yeah. The simplest stuff.
You took a hard right in your career, hey? Like, like that's awesome, man. Like literal trial by fire when you think about it. I don't really think you'd be hard pressed to find a harder trial by fire based on going straight into Fallujah from, not even working buried odor. So, no, kudos to you. And I'm glad you're here with all your fingers and toes, man. So I know that's important. Yeah. So your dog obviously got, I imagine, a ton of experience over there. A lot of lessons learned for yourself, for the, the Marine, the canine integration, all of it. You came home. How many deployments did you end up doing with your dog?
So that's the tough part about the Marine Corps. There was a couple things that kind of went sideways on that first op. I remember we were going to do an op. We were doing a hard knock on a target, and we had some support, and we were in the 7-ton, and I remember we got to the target and it went sideways as soon as we got there. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you know how it is, like in a firefight, I don't have the most time to worry about my dog. Mm-hmm. And more or less it's like, hey bro, heal and keep up. Mm-hmm. Like we're busy. And so I remember we were jumping out the 7-ton, and he bailed out before I was actually ready to hand him off. And he took a really nasty fall. Mm. We finished it. This is towards the end. And I remember we finished it out, and we got back, and he had some serious joint issues, and he had some serious joint pains. And they started doing x-rays on him, and they're just like, this is not good. Mm. And I can't remember the actual diagnosis, but like more or less like from his shoulder down was just rocked. Mm. And he was a little bit older, not too old, but to the point where they're like, yeah, he's done doing high speed stuff. And so we go back, and I get back, and we're trying to see if we can rehab him. Can we do surgery? Like, what's the prognosis here? And they were like, he's done. We gotta call it quits for him. And I was like, okay, so what does retirement look like? And this sucks because this is 2006. Yeah. And back then, we didn't have a lot of the adoption options that we do now.
Yeah, I hear where you're going with this. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were like, he's too aggressive. And he was too aggressive. And I was a kid still, I think I was 19.
Yep.
And so given a 19-year-old and a dog like that, even though me and him had been through hell together, they decided that they were going to put him down. Yeah. And so that's getting ready to go down. And again, in 2006, my leadership says, hey, you got to go back to Iraq. And I'm like, mother, like,
how
come
long
on, man.
How long was your first deployment?
About 7.5 months.
Yeah.
So I was not home long. I think I was home for about 5 months.
Yeah.
And I was getting ready to go back. And so they're like, hey, you take this new dog. And about 2 weeks before I went back to Iraq, we had to put my dog down, my first dog. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine my headspace, being a kid, being in Iraq, hooking and jabbing with the best the Marine Corps has to offer. Mm-hmm. And then putting my dog down, like my headspace was just a mess. Yeah. And then I get this second dog, and he is nowhere near as good as my first dog.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I have the experience now.
To help him through it a bit.
To help him through it a little bit. And so in 2006, I go back. And you do, I don't want to say you do enough good things, but you do enough things and get lucky enough and you get some knowledge about you. People start saying, okay, hey, you're going here. Mm-hmm. And so in 2006, I went, and I was attached to NSW SEAL Team 5 and then SEAL Team 7.
Nice.
I caught them in the middle of the rip, and, it was just, it was another change of pace. First Recon operated a certain way, and then trying to learn this team's, TTPs. And then I was only with 5 for 3 months, and then they switched out, and then it was 7 that showed up. And then the second go around, we were in Shark Base operating out of Ramadi.
Okay.
That was a different
a
ballgame
too, eh? Yeah.
100% was a shithole. Mm-hmm. And I remember there's one day that was a little rough, was called the Battle of Donkey Island. We were getting ready to go meet some sheik somewhere, and we got a call over the net looking for any QRF. Mm-hmm. Charlie 177 was driving, just doing night ops, Army unit. Mm-hmm. And they came across 2 semi trucks that were going to attack a fob, and wrong place, wrong time. And I think in total, they said somewhere between 55 to 75 insurgents poured out of it.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. So they came over the net screaming for us, because the way Donkey Island is set up, the river, they can just swim right across, and the AKs are perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. And so they were swimming and hiding along the river edges and hiding in the bush line, and they were getting the better flanks of this Army unit. And it was a tricky situation. And being with NSW, we had the Zodes that we could do the quick inflate with, mm-hmm. and the big boats couldn't get through it just because the seaweed was too nasty in the river. So we decide, hey, we're going to help these boys out. And so we roll out there, and, coming from the Marine side of the house, we always think we're the best, but I got to give credit to the SEALs. Like, those boys can fight. Yeah. And we get to,
I believe that, man. The Buds is no joke. Like, it's
no,
it's no fucking joke. I know there's a lot of different TV shows and stuff about it, but like, man, they're hard. Yeah. They're hardened, that's for sure.
Yeah, and you never know. Like, you've talked about this. You never know what people are going to be like in those situations. Mm-hmm. But they definitely held their own. And that was another rough deployment for us, because that fight went on for a couple hours. I don't know the amount of people that we ended up killing there, but I do know that they lost 2 Army dudes, and we were going back and forth between the river, just getting into skirmishes. Mm-hmm. And there were 2 Army guys that went down, and I remember throwing my dog in a Humvee because as much as my dog's, I love my dog. Like, he's got no business in a firefight. So I throw him in a Humvee, and me and the EOD tech run across to the other Humvee because we're going to use it as cover to try to get to these Army guys because they're pinned down on the edge of the water. And a grenade rolls underneath our Humvee and explodes.
Right off.
Yeah. And luckily, like, none of us are hurt. And those Humvees, the grenade, you just shake it off,
Yep.
But my dog got thrown around, and little did I know at the time, he ended rupturing one of his vertebrae in his back.
Yeah.
And so we get these guys out, jump in the trucks. Air support finally comes in. Thank God for air support.
Oh man, those fucking guys are the best, man. Nothing better.
They're the best. Yeah. And so we get going to the medevac and get these guys out of here. And it's one of those things where, like, we're standing around at the medevac getting the Army guys in, and, we look over at our LT, and he's got a hole in the side of him, and we're like, LT, you're bleeding. And he goes, oh shit, I am. Like, he had it through and through, piece of shrapnel, no idea.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I realized, I was like, oh shit, my dog.
Yeah. Yep.
Just the adrenaline dump. And then I go to open the truck, and he's curled up in a little ball. Aww. Like, mentally, like, it was just, aside from the physical trauma, like, mentally it crushed him.
Yeah.
And so because of that, my deployment got cut about 2 months short.
Yeah.
Just because I'm no longer an asset, I'm a liability at that point.
Yeah. And that's a great point in terms of, canines and especially during that time, like, the force multiplier that they are on the battlefield to any attachment to any team. Because at the end of the day, they, their goal is to, save US and allied lives at that moment. Right. Yeah. Like, their nose is like, that shit saves lives. And it obviously did for you, in a number of your deployments. So, so he retired obviously. And then, I imagine, and what did the rest of your career look like transition wise before you peeled out to DH, Department of Homeland Security?
So at that time, like, doing 2 rips back to back, with a little break in between, cycling through so many dogs, and Iraq was slowly starting to fade out. My first deployment was hooking and jabbing pretty consistently. The second one, stuff popped off, but nowhere near. And I was still young and stupid enough that all I wanted to do was chase the action.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that I think the military's gotten really good about now that we weren't good about previously was the toll that it takes on you.
Yep.
Yeah. And so mentally I was just in a place where I was like, I need a break. Mm-hmm. Like, I need some time. Mm-hmm. And so I went to the dog trainer school down in Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas.
Nice.
And I just started slinging dogs, man. Like, dogs became my safe place. Dogs became my outlet. It's like my therapy. Like, it was just the one thing that still gave me a good sense of purpose. But it was also the one thing that, like, kept me so engaged, because the rest of life just didn't, it was okay. But when you've lived at such extremes, you just feel like you're constantly chasing extremes. And I was like, this is hazardous for my health.
Yeah. Yeah. You're, I'm just sitting here listening to that. Like, I'm seeing into a mirror right now in terms of what dogs, did for you. Same, man. Like, it gave you a purpose to keep going, and to pull up from some of the, other behaviors that might not be, beneficial to your long-term health. I'm glad they were that for you as well, because they're fucking amazing. So you ended up spending how long at Lackland?
I was there for about 3 years, and it was a weird time because, we had lost a couple handlers along the way, like a couple guys that were my seniors, and then some guys that I went to canine school. One of my friends died when we were out there. His name's Dustin Lee. I'm still in contact with his mom today.
I'm sorry.
And yeah, it's one of those things that when it's your seniors or it's you're like your peer group, you are more receptive to the fact of, hey, this is what we signed up for. But Afghanistan kicked off pretty heavy. Knowing that Afghanistan was going to kick off the way it was, I don't know if I would have went to the schoolhouse. I probably would have stayed and done my part there. But then when Afghanistan kicked off, it was weird because now it was like the students that I was seeing in the schoolhouse that were getting killed in action. And that's a whole different ballgame, because now it's like, damn, you know, like it's different when it's your group versus your juniors. And that hits a lot different. And so eventually, you know, I leave there and I'm like, all right, let me get back to it. And I get back, and unfortunately at this point I've been promoted too much. And you know, needs of the Marine Corps, they go, hey, you're about done with dogs. And I was like, I'm about done with the Marine Corps. Because like, I was like, I know this is good for me. And if I lose this, I don't know where that's going to go. And so I left in 2015, and I got out, and like so many of our brothers and sisters, when you get out and you have zero purpose, you spiral out of control.
Yep.
So I went back to what I know, and I went contracting overseas in Afghanistan for a year.
Oh, really? With who?
Yeah. So originally it was Garda, and that contract under there, I think it was the WIPS 2 contract. And that was okay. But contracting's, you know, you're not chasing the glory, you're chasing the money.
Yeah.
And everyone there is just there for the money, and the camaraderie that you're looking for is not there.
Yeah.
It's just really not.
I've heard that. And that from the outside, that totally makes sense as well. So,
yeah.
So you do that for a bit. This is still, you're done with dogs at this point.
Correct.
Right.
Well, I'm doing dogs for Garda, but
okay.
It's just me. Yeah. Me and a singular dog.
Awesome.
It's not a training aspect, too much, other than me just training my own dog. And then I get a phone call, well, an email first, then a phone call. And, it's one of the trainers for MARSOC, and it's a program manager for MARSOC, Chris, who you met. And they're like, hey, we're looking for a new master trainer on the East Coast for 2nd and 3rd Raider Battalion.
So how did you know Chris at this point? Just through your time in the Marines?
So I first met Chris when I went through canine school. He was an instructor.
Yeah.
And
he is old. That's fair. He's a fantastic fucking human being though, man.
Like, that guy has... he's great.
We're going to have him on as well and talk about some of the stuff he's working on as well. So no, that's amazing. So you get a call from him?
I get a call from him, and, you know, during my time, special operations did not have canines. So they were pulling from traditional guys and just putting us with special operations. And so we were learning, you know, drinking through a fire hose. Special operations in its own is drinking through a fire hose. But imagine, you know, thinking you're going to be a military policeman, and then all of a sudden you're in with the, you know, top of the group trying to keep up. And so you do enough things, enough people learn your name, that the calls start coming to you. And they were like, hey, we need a new master trainer on the East Coast. And so I said bye to contracting. And then I went over to MARSOC and just started spinning up the next generation of warfighters. And
that's awesome.
Man, I cannot tell you enough how, looking at those kids, they are so much better than I was at that age.
Yeah.
You know, they're just next level. I
feel like that's our job at that point, right? Like that's your, like I look at, you know, even when I was getting ready to leave, you know, Dwyer Hill, the guys coming in off course, like, holy fuck, like just coming in so much stronger and more confident than, you know, when we showed up, and it's so nice to see that improvement, right? Just like our trainers, like my current set of trainers, like, you know, I look at my first few, how long it took them to kind of get up to speed, and now like my apprentices that are coming up, like just what we learn, what we can be more efficient with and teach. And I think that's our job, right? Like to kind of always be better. So no, that's great. So you, obviously you continue on with MARSOC for a bit, through Chris phone call. That's amazing. And what year did you end up leaving the Marines?
So that was 2000 and, oh man, what is it? 26 now? Damn, I'm getting old. 2021.
25. We're not 26 yet.
Okay, almost. Yeah. So 21, we're doing a joint training event out in California, and we call it the SME event, subject matter expert, and we pull in all SF teams, high-end SWAT teams from different K9 departments, and we get together and we train. And the unit I work for now comes out, they send a couple guys, and my handlers at the time at MARSOC made me look really, really good. We were putting in a lot of time, and those guys were phenomenal. And needless to say, Department of Homeland Security they're smart. They recruit from the best all over the country. Yeah. And they were like, hey, we have someone that we need to head up our new or our SWAT program, taking over, kind of moving in this direction. Are you interested? And at this point, being a little bit older, I'm like, I don't know, because I still love the Marine Corps, still love what I'm doing. But then, of course, they're like, we pay a lot more.
Yeah. And you're a civilian, and yeah.
And you're not, as much as I love the boys, trying to keep up with team dudes as you're aging, as you know, is not easy. And you need some form of home life. And I think on average, we were gone 8 months out of the year at MARSOC.
Yeah.
And it was just nonstop, and always young kids coming in. And, at some point you got to set your pride to the side, and you got to make room for the next generation. Yep. And you got to say, hey, it's your time. It's your time now.
And you know what? Once I got away from that, once I understood that, it's time to, you've done your piece, understanding how to then take what you have and your different areas of knowledge and apply it to, whatever it might be. So in this case, with DHS, your knowledge is directly affecting operations on the ground. So I would say that's, you know what I mean? Your pride aside, you're still doing exactly what you kind of set out to do, just a different uniform, right? Yeah. So good on you for making that jump, because I know it's not easy to leave the military. It's a comfy paycheck. It's a pension, all this stuff. Like, it's not easy to make that decision all the time, and a lot of people can find it difficult. And then what comes with that, right? The unknown, the great big unknown, leaving the big machine. So, good for you. So you currently have a couple dogs at home, correct? Why don't you tell us about them?
Yeah. Oh man. I don't know if I would call them mine in comparisons to my wife's. No, they're great. They're really fantastic. It's interesting because I've never wanted a dog at home. I always wanted a dog at work, and that's it. And I think a lot of it is just because, coming from the realm that we know how much time dogs take. And, but I love our dogs. They are complete chaos. And it's so interesting because you're so strict with your work dog, but when it comes to your home dog, I'm a little more forgiving. Way more forgiving. Way more forgiving. But we have one old man. He's fantastic. We have 2 mouths in the house. One is young and is about 8 months old right now. So
baby.
Yeah, it's that time to start putting in some work. Then we have a Dutch, and she's about 2 years old, and that's my girl. That's my shadow. She follows me around nonstop. Yeah. And it's funny, man. It's the little things about having a home dog that make you laugh. The simplest thing where you're watching them push the boundaries that you would never let them do if they were a work dog, but you go, yeah, I'll let that one slide. That's fine.
Yeah, I love it. So can you bring that your young one into work and work it if you want? Like, is that a
so yeah, works pretty good about those things. Obviously, even though I know he's well taken care of, there's still policies and procedures as far as making sure our dogs are the priority and our dogs are always safe. But there's so many training facilities in the area. There's so many units that we cross train with. There's plenty of opportunities to bring him in. So here shortly, he'll definitely be staying busy. And I think in the future, it's weird because I'm diving into trainingisms that I've never thought I would do. Things that I didn't think were my style of training, but after doing cross training with guys like you, guys like Chris, guys where I'm like, let me see if that methodology works for me. And having your own dogs is the perfect guinea pig to try it out.
Yeah, no, that's true, right? Because at the end of the day, you can shift and adjust and have it not affect your operational output at the time, right? Without fucking with that. So, okay, so one other thing I want to talk about before we jump to some training, the trainingisms that you talked about, is so we talked about mindset, philosophy. We're pretty similar, I would say. Everything you said, like I was like, yep. There was nothing where I was like, it really doesn't make sense to me, or I wonder what that is. Everything came from a point of progression, understanding, communication, right? When it comes to the operant kind of conditioning method, the 4 quadrants, this is something you probably use pretty heavily in your job. What would you say what do you continue to evolve in, as it relates to the 4 quadrants? Where have you found yourself shift within the quadrants? And I'll share, I'll give you a second to think about that, because I'll share my kind of mindset on that. So I think with everything in life, we evolve or we die, right? I think we have to, as people, as warfighters, everything we do, as canine handlers and trainers for sure. When I look at the quadrants, on the working dog side, I tend to overload my training aims and lean towards, a positive punishment side of things. And luckily, having a good dog, he forgave some of the stupid things that I did, right? Like you said, I didn't have him come up the leash at all, which I was lucky, because there was a few times he's probably like, dude, what the fuck do you want? Right. I would get the opposite. If he didn't understand something, he would literally just like lie down, look at me and be like, what the fuck are you doing? So what do we want here? Right. So when we talk about setting up training, and choosing aims, that's one of the things that I find agencies, police, military, they don't really do as well as they should. And that's something I found is it's very much like, hey, we have, and through no fault of their own, sometimes it's like we have one training day a month or whatever, because they're 99% operational and 1% training. Right. So, I always find that, they try to overload 5 or 6 aims, say building search, right? Building search is a great example where everyone likes to keep it up, but then you have dogs that are just fucking nut jobs, right? No sense of neutrality or whatever. So one thing I've taken away and I've definitely shifted towards, I would say, the middle, and or towards the positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement side, is the actual implications and psychological aspects of enforcing negative reinforcement and having the dogs understand why this is happening. I have found that it has greatly improved my efficiency for training, for all types of breeds, dogs, and behaviors, whether it be, basic or complex. Negative reinforcement to me was one of the biggest things that once you learned how to apply it in all types of behaviors, I feel as though, and not just with an e-collar, I think with a leash too, with whatever, environmentally setting things up, it's a skill on its own, learning how and figuring out how to enforce all these different quadrants without just adding or pushing a button, right? I think that's, we can fall back on that for sure. And I get that, but, train for the 100. So that's one of my biggest shifts I found in training is leaning away from, the communication punishment to more of a, hey, how can I help you understand? And then once you get it, okay, now I'm going to ask you to do it, then I'm going to tell you to do it, right? So there's that help piece. And then making the rewards like fucking off the charts. Like I call them, I tell guys, throw your dog a birthday party, like literally, like have like that kind of fun, you know? Don't fucking take your dog out to a birthday party. It's fucking dumb. It's yeah. Anyways, blue haired people do that shit. We don't do that shit. So there, I worked in a blue haired comment. Okay. So,
oh man,
but yeah, but have fun with your dog. Right. And that's important. And I feel as though, a lot of people, you know, didn't do that. Like it was very much like this working relationship that couldn't be defined or shifted in any other way other than do what I fucking say or else. Right. And that's one thing I think we've really, the world, you know, in the Western world, I can't speak to Europe too much, but, you know, Canada and North America, and States, like I just find that shift has really happened. And I was just wondering what kind of your shift was, especially going from brand new in Iraq to, you know, to where you end up being, you know, in the training side and in Lackland and stuff like that.
So, first and foremost, yeah, like talking about training with you, like it was an absolute blast. I definitely don't use as many of the fancy words as you do. I am not as eloquent as you. Yeah, fancy words, man. I am very much your typical Marine. Like I'm tasting the different color of crayons. But in the realm of birthday parties, it's funny you were mentioning birthday parties for dogs, and I'm thinking my wife putting on the hoodie on one of our dogs and me just shaking my head.
But like exactly, whatever. Enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like
have a good time with it. But my methodologies have drastically changed, and I will speak in Europe. No, it's definitely a trend we're seeing more in canine industry as a whole, and I don't know if it's because quality of dogs has shifted because there's still good quality dogs out there, or if it's just we've gotten a lot smarter. I used to be very much positive punishment, positive reinforcement kind of guy, hands down. Like that was my bread and butter because that was all that we were taught to really apply. They talked about the quadrants,
black or white.
One of the things, yeah, but that was the thing, and it took me forever to realize that you truly are within flux of all four blocks. You are never just staying in one. And the misconception that's taught for a lot of dog trainers is like, okay, you've done this one. Yeah, but as soon as that one is done, one of these is following. And it took me forever to figure that out. And I would say that's been the biggest change in my methodology. And I mean, you've trained with me. I am a big remove handler input for certain aspects of teaching, especially for how I teach building search, is like the handler doesn't need to be involved. Let the dog have his own way of learning.
And you know what, that right there for the people that are going to listen to this is the big difference from say a working dog to a pet dog is, I mean, all dogs in general, but a working dog specifically, out and away, right? I want you confident out and away from me, being able to, I don't want you to look for input. I want to show you the answers and you're going to reward. And then we can, you know, negative reinforce it and eventually punish it should it need be, right? But that's what you just said is so important that, I don't want to, these behaviors, these searching, the bite work like that. I want them to do that, man. Like you go get comfortable doing that. Don't always look for handler input. And I think one of the biggest things, you see it in police a lot with explosive search on leash, right? That's like the biggest cheat there is. You know, the handler shuffles their feet or stops moving, or the little Velcro tab on their gear.
Oh yeah.
That's the dog's like, yep, it's fucking here. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. The dog's literally queuing on a fucking empty, like has no idea what it's queuing on. It just knows that this is where I get rewarded. Right. So I'm glad you mentioned that because that's something that drives me is we're too down and in. We need to be up and out. And that's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the answers to the test. I mean, when you're doing your Velcro strap or you're doing the shuffle, it's the answers to the test. And it's like, no one has given you the answers to the test. Why would you give answers to the test to the dog? And I think that it's always interesting. And there's small stuff that I never really paid attention to. You know, like you're walking forward towards a building and the dog is consistently foraging. And what's our normal answer? It's positive punishment. And bam, little
did I know until years later that forward progress is its own reward, right? Like the dog is self-rewarding through forward progress. Like he's reinforcing himself, and you could, pop him a million times. He's still winning.
Yeah. Successful approximation works both ways from us and the dog, right?
100%.
Yeah, yes, the dog's
100%.
getting that too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So just taking that away, withholding that, just punishing in that realm of like, no, there's no forward progress until like you start adhering to the behavior that I want. I think that's kind of been one of the biggest things for me, because they are, I think me and you were talking about this, like they're little crack addicts, right? They just, any stimulus dump that they can get and feed into that, like they are nonstop about it. And one of the things that I've noticed is withholding or just taking away alone has been the biggest change in my methodology for how I approach. And then I think even just the kind of dog that I look for operationally now has drastically changed.
That's fair.
Trainability is huge. Yeah, you can have all the power in the world, but if you're not clear-headed about it, you do me no good.
And that's, that right there, like I think, and I talked about the SF units. I just filmed something recently. I talked about the different SF units that I've worked with, the different types of dogs. And we talked about operators as a whole, even though we have all these different, I talked about the tier 1 units and all the different selections that go into it. We're all different. SAS, CAG, Team 6, right? SASR, and all these different units. And what I found was, even though the selection was different, at the end, when you got there, it didn't really matter. You could literally pull a patch off and put it on the next guy. You could work together and there would be that communication. There would be that. It wouldn't matter. Well, with dogs, I found that different. I found that some units do things a lot differently. And at the end of the day, like, we talked about, there's so many fucking ways to train a dog. And I don't think, there's, we can joke about right and wrong, but at the end of the day, it's what gets you to your operational output, your operational lines, your lines of operation, and does so efficiently, right? And you can do so reliably and repeatably. So I think the most efficient, right? So not necessarily heavy-handed, but not, babying them through everything, right? So it's that finding that line. And that's something I found with working with different units is, you take little bits from all these units on like the pieces of Kong with odor. That's like, there's an example of it works. It gets, those guys are getting the job done, it on some level. But personally, do I think it's necessary? No. Like, you know what I mean? But that doesn't mean anything to me. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, if that's something that people want to spend time on, right? So I really appreciated that from you, allowing the dogs to work, showing them the answers, and allow them to work in order to self-reward, in order to increase the chance of a behavior. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Because I think if you add anything into your training methodology, whether it's Kong and odor or something like we talked about, like at some point you have to take that out, and you are adding steps to. Yes, you're getting efficiency, and that's great, but like. Anything you add, there's always the counterbalance in dog training. There is going to be a blowback on some end. And so the most minimal amount of things that I have to take out, the easier my job becomes. And then on top of it, the more proficient my dog is. After doing this for so long, like it's not necessarily can you get the job done anymore for me, because I know like me and my team, we can. That's not the problem. It's how can I make as foolproof as possible, and how fast can I get these guys ready?
On the day, can it be reliable and repeatable for my team, keep them safe, and
Correct.
How fast can I do that? And right. Operations drive training. And I could scream this into this fucking microphone over and over, and still there's some people that just don't fucking get it, is what your operational output is. That's what you should be training for, and above that, you know what I mean? So that you can fall below it, right? Aim for the 100, get the 90. You get 90 of dog training in real life, fuck, you're laughing. Yeah. You're laughing. Yeah. You're in a good fucking spot, man. So, and it's funny, just to bridge this into how we met. I got an Instagram, I got a Facebook message from Wayne. It was like a different account. I didn't really know what it was. And I totally thought it was spam. Like, I'm not even kidding. I'm like, hey, do you want to come to Australia? I'm like, who the fuck is this? I had no idea. And then we got to chatting, and he's like, oh, I invited Brad as well. And I'm like, okay, well, I can prove this, because I'll just message Brad, right? So Brad told me, he's like, yeah, it's legit. I start talking. I talked to Mike Lilly, Mike Nesbitt, and different guys, and they're like, yeah, we've been there. And I was like, oh, fuck, okay, this is real. And then that's how that came about. And then, we ended up meeting earlier this month. How did you get involved with the Australia trip?
Man, at this point, it's going to sound like I pay Chris, so Chris, I know, has been over there a couple times, and then he was pen pals with Wayne, and they were talking back and forth, and Wayne was asking for a couple different things, and I guess he had asked something about building search, and Chris is like, oh, I got a guy. And, me and Chris, I think we work in the same office. This is the third place we've worked together, I can't attribute enough thanks to that guy for all the situations and the things that he does, not only for our community, but for me personally. And he was like, hey, do you want to go do this? And it was definitely funny in the sense that, I've done this in a couple different places all over the world where I've gone and I've trained different units. And, even though you're across the pond and you're in a completely different country, everyone's got the same problems, man. Everyone's got the same problems. And I think it's like I'll piggyback off of what you said there. A lot of people are not looking at the operation and tailoring the dog to the operation. They are just training within the realm of all they know. And I think it was a huge eye opener for a lot of those kids that we were teaching, hey, agree. There's a different way to get here. And watching you train, like you were saying, man, it's so funny when you train with guys that just, they understand it, they get it. And in the realm that is not cookie cutter, it is tailored to the individual dogs. I think there's this misconception that, dog trainers have. I think there's a difference between dog trainers and behavioralists. Watching you train, as a behavioralist, watching you go, he's doing this, we're modding this. It's the finer points. That's what makes, I think, a true behavioralist instead of, the cookie cutter dog trainer, the blue haired cookie cutter, hey, I'll teach your dog how to heel.
You worked it in. Yeah.
Just for you, man.
20-foot leach and some treats. That'll get my dog to heel in no time. It. Yeah. No, you're bang on, man. And I loved listening to your PowerPoint class, everything, the steps, it was fucking awesome, man. I loved it. I love listening to it because it's not that it reaffirms anything that I'm doing. Of course, it's easy to sit there and just nod along, but it was engaging. It was fun. It was easy to follow. It was informative. Those kids learned a lot. I'm certain of it. And we saw some of their specific growth. Claire with Bandit was one that I just, look at the dog from when we started to where it ended, right? And her, building that confidence side too. I was just super impressed with a few people down there. And touching on the two commando boys that we got to work with. And I'm excited to hopefully get and go finish what we started with them. Because, great guys, looking to move forward. Right. So, yeah, you're right. Being able to manipulate on the fly, especially after each rep, I think is important, because if you just go down the pattern of a rep, that dreaded one more rep, you're not able to adjust on the fly, and you might be reinforcing 6 different things along the way. Right. And it's, something you might not want to do. And so from a training aspect point that I wanted to touch on with you, and it kind of ties everything together. In Australia, when we talked about in Chris's class, I don't think were you sitting in Chris's class? No, we always have the misfortune of teaching at the same time anywhere we go. That's right. Yeah. And I had already listened to yours, so I sat in on Chris's. Yeah. So in Chris's class, he was talking about just, introducing the boxes, the odors, and then eventually fading them out into the environment, right? Pretty simple. Using a lure, creating a focus, getting your behavior, generalizing it, and then making it operational, and then done, remove it. Right. Right. It seems so easy, but it's so easy. Yeah. But, but one of the I think one of the corrections guys or one of the engineers up front, they talked about when they introduced boxes, they also introduced patterning at the same time. And they put the box in corners of rooms so the dog knows where to search, but they did it right from the start. So they haven't even got a behavior yet, and they're trying to teach patterning. And I saw the wheels in Chris's brain turn. I could see it, and mine were fucking going ballistic in my head, because in my head I'm thinking, your dog has 3 reps right now at this. What are you patterning, right? Like the patterning comes from hundreds of reps of a trained behavior, then we can shape and build it, right? This speaks to that. This speaks to that aim, right? Like, what's your aim? Well, I want to associate a behavioral reaction with a paired odor. Okay, done. Start there. Get that. That's important, right? I don't need to teach flying ninja kicks into a room. I'm not doing, all this. It just seemed like a lot, and I saw Chris's mind working. It was rolling in his head pretty good, and that just speaks to that mindset of, overcomplicating things, I think sometimes, or trying to do too much at once. And I think we're all guilty of this. We've all been guilty of it at times, for sure. I have. My first tour, I tried to do like 6 things at once, and I was like, yeah, that was dumb. And the dog would tell me otherwise, right? So, but that communication system is so important. So, it was interesting to see that unfold and why. And we challenged him on it too, and Chris did too. And I did. And I said, well, why, because if you can explain something, if you have an idea for training and you can explain it, okay, let's try it, right? Like, I think if you can explain it and it makes somewhat sense, doesn't matter if I agree with it, let's try it, because it doesn't matter what I think. It's what the dog shows me, right? At the end of the day, the dog is right. I'm not right. I have my opinion on training and I can set it up. I can create the environment. But at the end of the day, the dog is going to tell us if it's working or not, right? Quickly, we'll know if he's frustrated or not. So yeah, I think that was great. That whole trip was great. Just getting to listen to a bunch of different people, getting to know you and Chris, and hopefully working some more together in the future. I'd love to come down and see what you guys are doing down there as well. I think that'd be a blast. I'll bring the family and come down, and it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think you, just to touch on that real quick before we move on. The one thing you say there is so true is, and we both agreed upon this, is like, when I am teaching a dog, it's one conflict at a time. Like, their operant capability is nowhere near as ours. We're trying to reason everything in comparisons to their association capabilities. And I think too many people add conflicts. And pattern training is great, but I also think pattern is the nemesis of efficiency in regards to, if I am sweeping something and this area is a higher probability of threat due to me being able to break the area down as a true dog team, but my dog's taking a hard left to go do his pattern, I'm wasting, efficiency and time. Like, I am burning my dog out for areas that are not my predominant focus of work. And so I think when guys get caught up in the pattern, they get stuck in the pattern. It's like that thing we were talking about. You're adding stuff that at some point is going to have a blowback on you.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you're not able to remove it in time and it becomes a crutch.
Right.
Equipment can be a big thing for that too, right? Like, it's such a great training tool, but at the same time, it's like, well, fuck, how do I safely get it out of there, right? So my dog, still hauls ass when I need it, right? So no, that's great, man. So what's next for you? What do you got on the go right now?
Ooh, man. So where do I even begin? As far as future plans, you mean?
Yeah. Like right now and then future wise.
So like right now we're in the middle of a class right now. So we're just turning out dogs. Numbers overall, obviously with the change in the administration, a lot of law enforcement officers and law enforcement agencies themselves are trying to bolster numbers. But these things take time.
Is that something that you've seen with the change in administration in terms of support?
100%.
You have, yeah, like tangible, you know what I mean? Like, in terms of, like, not only federal, like, just, I imagine that was going to be a big thing. So
yeah, like, obviously depending on who's running what state, that differs state to state. But as far as overall federal agencies, the amount of numbers that they want to bolster has come up. Funding for certain places were cut. Funding for other places were increased. Not to get too political
that's
here.
What we call a clue.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's one of those things where they're like, hey, we need numbers. And it's like, I wished it was, I wish that's how dogs worked, but it takes time. It takes time. And so a lot of friends with other agencies, as far as us ourselves, like we're burning the candle at both ends to make the job done. But I also enjoy that as a trainer because I can't shake the military habit of working under pressure.
Yep.
As far as future wise, I'm getting pretty close to the end of the road for dogs.
Yeah.
I've had a couple guys underneath me that I've been mentoring for about 10 years now, and they're good. They're so good. And here shortly, I'm hoping to be the guy behind the guy. And as you know, I'm always doing schoolwork. Right now, I am studying to be a social worker with specialty in behavioral health and clinical addiction.
That's amazing.
Being sober for as long as I have, and watching it affect not only my family but my friends. I am looking at the next step of how I can give back without sacrificing my body. Too many surgeries and too many, I tell the young kids all the time, like, thank God you guys are out there slinging guns and kicking in doors, because some of us are too old or broken to do it anymore.
Legit.
Yeah. So I'm also in the middle of writing a book, which I'm hoping to have done by the beginning of next year, which is just about a couple different guys that I've met along the way. Chris is one of them that have made not only a huge impact on me, but like K9 is not just a job or a moment for them. It's their entire life. And, and I think that is huge because there's too many guys, and plenty, that we never get to hear their stories. Yeah. They've done such a great thing for not only their country, but for the world and as a whole. And, they're the silent warriors. You never hear about it, and they deserve some due. Yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible. Well, I want a signed copy of that because I want to read that for sure. So
you got it, man.
That's awesome. Is it going to have lots of like crayon pictures and like graphs and stuff for people like
100%.
Myself to work through?
Yeah. It might be like put some scratch and sniff stickers on the front of it.
Oh man, no, that's awesome. I'm super happy for you. It's getting to meet you was you and Chris specifically was awesome. It was really great to meet other hard charging, passionate individuals, and like-minded, and not like-minded just because we like to surround ourselves like yes men type thing, but just. Yeah, that's a fucking warrior. That's a warrior. You know what I mean? Like I love that. And, I feel as though I'm very much like you in this resolve that I don't want to be friends with everyone. I don't want to hang out with everyone. I want to have specific people around me in my life. And, I think it's important to keep those people close and, keep your circle, tight, whatever that is to you. Right. So I think that's important. So it was fantastic meeting you. And I want to thank you for taking your time to come on here today. I know you're super busy with, you're getting ready to move, and the wife's probably all up in your biz. So that's, and the crazy amount of dogs. So I really appreciate it, man. It was an absolute pleasure to meet you. And I really look forward to working with you in the future.
No, dude, you've been absolute awesome to work with. I was very grateful to be with that group of dudes. I hopefully will get to do that again with you soon. And who knows, man? Like maybe we'll go to a different part of the world and teach some young kids.
I'm in. All of it.
Yeah.
I'm old now, so we gotta, Who are you? Am I older than you? Yeah.
Yeah, I was the youngest.
Oh, rub it in. Why don't you?
No big deal. Yeah, 40.
Well, we can agree. We can agree. Chris is old. That's all that matters.
Yeah, 100%. So awesome, even though he's like double both our size, but it's fine.
I know. But if we take them together and we can go for the legs, I think we got.
Yeah, we might be able to do that.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. I want to thank you for coming on today. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. Listen in. there is so much into this podcast and James' experience that, we wouldn't even have the time to dive into all his experience in the military side of things, especially early on with deployments. Mad respect. I hope people enjoy this, listen to it, learn from it, and looking forward to future episodes. So I want to thank you again, and I hope you have a great one. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, brother.